Okay, yeah. Okay. So today we'll look at the properties of the determinant. So we'll use the relation that determinant of T U V W is equal to TU TV TW. So this relation we have used. So from this particular relation, if you put T is equal to identity, so put T is equal to identity, then you will get that determinant of identity is equal to 1. Because if you choose UEW to be linearly independent, then you can cancel it on both sides and then you will get determinant of identity is equal to 1. Similarly, then you can get that determinant of alpha T is equal to alpha cube times determinant of T. So determinant of alpha T is equal to alpha cube times determinant of T. So this cube actually comes because the space that we have assumed, the underlying vector space that we have assumed is 3-dimensional. If it were n-dimensional, then it would be alpha raised to n determinant of T. Yes. So then again using this particular relation, we will get that determinant of Rs or times UVW is equal to Rs U comma Rs V comma Rs W, and that you can write as determinant of R times Su comma Sv comma Sw, and this you can write as determinant of R times determinant of S times UVW, and then again choose UVW to be linearly independent so that you can cancel the scalar triple product for UVW on both sides. Then what you will get is that determinant of Rs is equal to determinant R times determinant of S. Yes. So actually, if you try to show this result using indicial notation, then you will see that it is quite cumbersome to prove this particular result. So last time I had mentioned that there are these two methods of proving any given result. One is the direct method. So for example, this was the direct method where we did not use any indicial notation. And then the other method, of course, is using indicial notation. So last time I had mentioned that you need to be familiar with both these techniques, right? And so this is an example where the direct proof is far more elegant than the indicial notation proof. So of course we have seen instances where the indicial notation proof is far simpler than the direct proof. So as I said, that it is better to be familiar with both these techniques and use whatever is appropriate, or actually you can derive it using one of the methods and then verify it using the other method. So I think you should be familiar with both these methods here. Yes. So if I want to show this same result using, or if I want to show, first find the expression for the determinant of T itself, then in indicial notation, then let us see how we go about doing that. So in this particular same relation, the determinant of T times UVW is equal to TU comma TV comma TW. In this, now what you do is you choose now U to be, so choose U to be equal to EJ cross EK. So all these EJs, EKs, whatever I am writing, that is a canonical basis. So that is equal to epsilon IJK times EI. Then V is equal to EJ and W is equal to EK. And then substitute that in this particular expression, then what you will get is that UVW is equal to epsilon IJK times epsilon IJK, so that is equal to 6. So you will get now, so if you substitute this and then also use the fact that T I, TEI is equal to TPI times EP. So use, so this is just the formula for the components of a second order tensor. So if you substitute all these expressions into this first relation here, so let me call it as 1. If you substitute it into 1, then what you will get is that determinant of T is equal to 1 by 6 of epsilon I j k epsilon p q r times T I p T j q T k r. So you will see there is a kind of symmetry in this particular expression. So here you can see that this I goes with this P, so you get IP, then J goes with Q, that is this JQ, and K goes with R, so that is this KR here. Actually if you interchange the dummy indices, so that means you call I as P, J as Q, and K as R, and P you call as I, Q you call as J, and R you call as K. So interchange, if you interchange the indices, then what you will get is you will also get this other formula, which is epsilon I j k epsilon p q r times T I p. So instead of T I p, you will get T p I T q j T r k. So this is the other expression that you will get here. So this is interchanging the dummy indices here. So this is let me say I goes to P, and then J is interchanged with Q, and K is interchanged with R. Okay. So from that you will get these two, and of course you may have to use the properties of the alternate tensor, such as epsilon I j k is epsilon j k I, and so on and so forth. Okay. So these are the two formulae you will get here. So from these two formulae, now what you get, so let me call this relation here as 2. So this, let me call this as 2. So from 2, now what we get, from 2 we get that determinant of T transpose is equal to determinant of T. So this is directly following from this particular relation here. Yes. So we'll derive some more useful relations. So of course this is a useful relation, but we can simplify some of these expressions and give alternate expressions. So let us see some other expressions that we can get with this. So yes, so again let me just write that same formula here. So that is that 1. This is U V W, that is equal to TU dV dW. So in this again, so this was 1. So now in this, if you choose U to be EP, then V to be EQ, and W to be ER. Okay, then in that case what you will get is epsilon PQR times determinant of T is equal to epsilon IJK TIP TJQ TKR, and that is also equal to epsilon IJK TPI TQJ TRK. So this relation also is very, very useful relation in deriving various kinds of identities here. Then if you choose PQR to be 1, 2, 3, so choose PQR to be 1, 2, 3. In that particular case, then you will get determinant of T is equal to epsilon IJK TI1 TJ2 TK3 is also equal to epsilon IJK T1I T2J T3K. So actually if you see the usual formula for a determinant, right? T11, T12, T13, T22, T31, T32, T33, right? So the usual formula for finding the determinant is T11 times T22, T33 minus T32, T23, and so on, right? So that is your usual formula. If you expand this expression or this particular expression, you will get that, you will get the usual expression. So then you may ask that in that 1/6 formula, right, which I had derived just a while ago. So then why does that 1/6 factor come? So basically this object gets repeated 6 times, okay, in that particular formula, and then it's just a repetition. So the 6 will get cancelled. Finally you will get back, you know, the same thing. Okay, so these are just alternate expressions for the determinant. Okay, and then they are useful. All of them are useful in some context or the other while proving some other results. Yes. Okay, then let us look at some other results now. We have seen that UVW, right, UVW is equal to determinant of U1, U2, U3, V1, V2, V3, W1, W2, W3, right? And so this can be written as determinant of E1 dyadic U plus E2 dyadic V plus E3 dyadic W. And so now let us try to write the product of two scalar triple products. Okay, so this we can write as UVW times PQR. Suppose if I want to find the product of two scalar triple products, so that I can write as determinant, and so use this particular result here. So you will get E1 dyadic U plus E2 dyadic V plus E3 dyadic W, and times, so this is one thing, times the determinant of E1 dyadic P plus E2 dyadic Q plus E3 dyadic R. Okay, and then you can see that determinant of Rs is equal to determinant of R into determinant of S. So and then determinant of T transpose is equal to determinant of T. So these two properties we will use here. So determinant of T transpose is equal to determinant of T, and determinant of Rs is equal to determinant R times determinant of S. So these are the two properties that we proved at the beginning of this class. Use these two properties. So what you do is now you write the transpose of this one here, right? Because determinant of the transpose is equal to the determinant of that. So this I can write now as equal to, let me write it here, this is equal to determinant of U dyadic E1, U dyadic E1 plus V dyadic E2 plus W dyadic E3 times then E1 dyadic P plus E2 dyadic Q plus E3 dyadic R, and then this is the whole determinant here, right? And then multiply these two. So E1 dyadic E1 will go to E1 dot E1. So use this property that A dyadic B times C dyadic D is equal to B dot C times A dyadic D. So, so this is probably one of the homework problems, so you can try to show this. Use that property. So you will see that E1 dyadic E1, U1 dyadic E1 times E1 dyadic P will give E1 dot E1, so that is just 1, but E1 dot E2 will give 0, and so on. So only 3 terms will survive out of all of this. So that is equal to determinant of U dyadic P plus V dyadic Q plus W dyadic R. So this is a very nice result that links the product of two scalar triple products to the determinant of a sum formed from the dyadic products of UVW and PQR. This is a very, very nice result that we get, and again all these results will prove useful in proving certain theorems or corollaries and so on and so forth. Okay, so we will not again go into that at this stage. At a relevant stage, I will point out where these results are useful. Yes. Okay, now we come to a very, very important theorem which actually forms the basis for the eigenvalue problem. Okay, so this is a very, very important theorem. The theorem. So given T belonging to Lin, there exists a non-zero vector n such that Tn is equal to 0 if and only if determinant of T is equal to 0. So as I said that this theorem will be the basis for our eigenvalue problem. When we define the eigenvalue problem, this theorem will play a very key role here. So here, see, we are looking for a non-trivial solution n. Okay, when we say Tn equal to 0, because see, n equal to 0 is always a solution, but that is a trivial solution. So we are looking for a non-trivial solution to the set of equations Tn equal to 0, and then that you get a non-trivial solution if and only if determinant of T is equal to 0. Okay, so let us try to prove this particular theorem. So I think the proof is quite elegant. So let us try to see the proof here. So proof, if now determinant of T is equal to 0, then you will get, so this is from your again that same relation Tu comma Tv comma Tw is equal to determinant of T times UVW is equal to 0, because the determinant of T is equal to 0. So hence this will be equal to 0. And then we have seen a theorem that if the scalar triple product is 0, then the elements are linearly dependent, right? So this implies that Tu, Tv, Tw are linearly dependent, So what does that mean? So that means that there exist scalars. So there exist scalars alpha, beta, gamma, not all 0, right? Not all 0, but some can be 0, right? Not all 0 means some can be 0, okay? Such that alpha Tu plus beta Tv plus gamma Tw is equal to 0. And we can now use the linearity of the tensor transformation T. So you can write this as T of alpha u plus beta v plus gamma w is equal to 0. Right? And then, so you can now take this n to be this particular vector here. And since alpha, beta, gamma are not all 0, hence this n is a non-trivial vector. Non-trivial means non-zero vector, right? So take n, so here take n to be equal to, take n is equal to alpha u plus beta v plus gamma w. And then this is not equal to 0, right? Because as I said that already, alpha, beta, gamma, they are not all 0. So hence you can take this. And then you get that Tn is equal to 0. Right? So Tn is equal to 0 because, so we have now found a non-trivial vector n such that Tn equal to 0 if determinant of T is equal to 0. So conversely, now we need to show that if there exists a non-trivial vector n, then determinant of T is 0. So let us try to show the converse of this particular theorem here. conversely, if there exists n not equal to 0 such that T n is equal to 0, then choose V and W such that N, V, W are linearly independent, right? And so that you will get that N comma V comma W is not equal to 0. Okay, then now use again the definition of the determinant. Determinant of T times U, V, or N, in this case, sorry, not U, V, W, N, V, W is equal to Tn, Tv, Tw, but Tn is 0, correct? So that is equal to 0, Tv, Tw, so that is equal to 0. So that's so this is 0 here, and hence you will get that NVW is non-zero, hence determinant of T is 0. So this implies that determinant of T is equal to 0. So we have shown that if there exists a non-trivial n such that Tn is equal to 0, then determinant of T is equal to 0. Okay, so this is a very nice theorem, so which we'll use when we define the eigenvalue problem for this. Okay, fine. And we'll move on now to the next set of results, which involves the inverse now of a second order tensor T. Okay, so we'll define that. So in order to define the inverse of a second order tensor T, we need to define the cofactor of a second order tensor also. So first we'll do that. So inverse of a tensor. So we will denote it by T inverse. Okay. So, and first we'll define. So first define cofactor of T, right? Cofactor of T as cofactor T U dyadic V as equal to Tu cross Tv. Okay. So again, because I am using this cross product, this definition is very specific to 3 dimensions. Okay, but that is fine because see, all of continuum mechanics is finally going to live in 3-dimensional space. So it is okay if we use 3-dimensional space. So if you wanted to generalize these results to n dimensions, then you have to follow some other method. But here the proofs get considerably simplified if we use these cross products and structure of 3-dimensional space. So so I'll use that structure of 3-dimensional space while proving these results here. Now let us prove that this cofactor T is a second order tensor. So it maps a vector to a vector, right? Because Tu cross Tv is also a vector and U cross V is a vector, so it maps a vector to a vector, right? But proving linearity is quite difficult. So using this particular definition. So let us try to see that. So here let us say that, okay, so maps vector to a vector, vector to a vector. Okay, then to prove linearity, so to prove linearity, we'll note that every vector, so note that every W belonging to V can be expressed as U cross V for some UV, for some UV or some UV belonging to V. So take a look at the book or try it yourself, that how you can do that. Okay, so so that it is not very difficult, but you can always do this. So that means every W can be expressed as some U cross V. So this choice of this U and V need not be unique, but you can always get at least one choice where U cross V then finally gives you W. Fine. Then now, so now if W1 and W2 are arbitrary vectors, so this is more tricky, whatever I am going to say now. So if W1, W2 belonging to V are two arbitrary vectors, then they can be expressed as U1 cross V and U2 cross V. Okay. So this is going to be a bit more tricky to show. So here you can see that W and W2 are arbitrary vectors. They can be expressed as U1 cross V and U2 cross V. So this part V is the same in both of them. So that is very, very important in trying to show the linearity of this transformation here. So as I said, the proof is also a little bit more tricky. So if W1 and W2 are linearly dependent, so first let's get rid of that case. If W1, W2 are linearly dependent, then W2 is alpha times W1, right, for some alpha belonging to R. And then you can take the U2. So you can always express this W1 as U1 cross V. So that is just from this previous result here, that any vector can be expressed as the cross product of two vectors. And then just you take simply this U2 to be alpha times U1 in this part. So this case is fairly simple. So take U2 to be equal to alpha times U1. So first find alpha 1 V and then simply take U2 to be alpha times U1, then you are done. Okay. So as I said that the part of this proof where W1 and W2 are linearly independent is not so trivial. Okay. So let us look at that particular part now here of this proof. Okay. So if W1, W2 are linearly independent, if W1, W2 are linearly independent. Okay, now let us look at this particular case. Okay. Then let V be equal to, so let V be equal to W1 cross W2 divided by norm of W1 cross W2 square. Okay. So see now, since W1 and W2 are linearly independent, this W1 cross W2 is going to be a non-zero vector, and so we are okay with this kind of a definition here. So basically your V that you are choosing is going to be perpendicular to both W1 and W2. So if you draw this is W1 and this is W2, okay, then it is going to be pointing outside the board here, right? It's going to be perpendicular to both W1 and W2 here. Then now you let U1 be equal to, U1 is equal to minus of W1 dot W2 times W1 plus W1 square times W2, and U2 is equal to minus W2 square times W1 plus W1 dot W2 times W2. Okay, so by making this choice, okay, you can see that you will get that U1 cross, so this will now give you U1 cross V is equal to W1, and you will get that U2 cross V is equal to V. Here I am using this result whatever we have shown here, right? U cross V cross W is equal to something, right? So that particular result that for the vector triple product that I had proved earlier, so I am using that result here because you can see that this V, for example, is a cross product between two vectors, and then when you take U1 cross this V, then you will get this kind of a structure here. And then if you simplify things, you will get back this one here. So finally, what we have shown is that given any arbitrary vectors W1 and W2, you can always express them as U1 cross V and U2 cross V. So now we are in a position to show the linearity of the transformation for cofactor of T. Okay, let us do that. So cofactor of T times cofactor of T times alpha W1 plus beta W2. Now this is equal to cofactor of T times alpha U1 plus beta U2 times cross with V, right? Because so this is the key step, as I said, that we need the V to be the same, although the U1 and the U2 can be different, but the V needs to be the same in order to show linearity here. So now this can be written as T of alpha U1 plus beta U2 cross with TV. So this is just the definition of the cofactor of T that I am using here. So this, now use the linearity of the tensor transformation for T. So you will get alpha Tu1 plus beta Tu2 cross with TV, and then after that point again now write this as alpha times cofactor of T times U1 cross V plus beta times cofactor of T times U2 cross V, and then you can just write this as W1 and this as W2. So this is equal to alpha times cofactor of T times W1 plus beta times cofactor of T times W2. Okay, so that shows the linearity, that you cofactor T acting on alpha W1 plus beta W2 is alpha times cofactor T times W1 plus beta times cofactor T acting on W2. So that shows the linearity of the, so what we have shown is that cofactor T is a second order tensor because it maps a vector to a vector and it's a linear transformation, right? So that is what we have now shown finally with this. So okay, let us see this, and yes, okay. So thus cofactor of T belongs to Lin. Okay. And now, so now we'll show. Will show that cofactor of T transpose is equal to I2 times I minus I1 or times T plus T square, where this I1 is trace of T. Okay, so let us try to show that. We will use the relation that trace of T times UVW is equal to TU comma V comma W plus U comma TV comma W plus U comma V comma TW. Okay. So what you do is now you replace U by TU. Okay. See, U is an arbitrary vector in this case. So I am allowed to replace that by TU. So replace U by TU. Okay. Then what you will get is that trace of T times TU comma V comma W is equal to T square U comma V comma W plus TU comma TV comma W plus U TU comma v, comma t w. Right? So this is, and then if you rearrange this, then what you will get is that tu, comma tv, comma w. So I'm just rewriting this particular part here, plus tu, comma v, comma tw is equal to trace of t times u, tu, comma v, comma w minus t square u, comma v, comma w. Okay, so just rewrite this particular expression here. And then we also know that we also have the expression for I2 of u, comma v, comma w. So let me rewrite that particular expression here. So we have seen that I2 now times u, v, w is equal to tu, comma tv, comma w plus u, comma tv, comma tw plus tu, comma v, comma tw. Right. So here you can see now. Let us look at this. So this tu, comma v, comma w is this particular object here, and then this tu, comma v, comma tw is this object here. So you can replace that sum in this particular expression by this identity here, and so what you will get is the following. So you will get that so this is equal to let me just see. So yes, just one second. So this is so you will get finally that this is equal to tu, comma tv. So let me just tu one second here. Okay. Yes. So this will give me tu, comma tv, comma w plus tu, comma v, comma tw plus cofactor of t transpose times u, comma v, comma w. Okay. So I have used the definition of the cofactor here. So basically you see that I am just writing. So let me just rewrite that. So basically u, comma tv, comma tw, right? I am rewriting it as u, comma, then this tu cross tv, right? This is tu cross tw, sorry, tv cross tw. Then this I am writing as u, comma cofactor t times v cross w, right? And then this I can write as using the definition of the transpose, cofactor t transpose u, comma v cross w. And then I can again write this as a scalar triple product as cofactor t transpose u, comma v, comma w. Okay. So this last term here is obtained as actually u, comma tv, comma tw, which is this particular term here. Okay. So so just try to simplify this using these two expressions, then this is what you will get finally. And then now use the fact that the u, v, w are arbitrary, right? So you can write this as since okay. So now what you do is that you substitute. So let us see now. So okay, you substitute. So let me call this some names here. So let me call this as 1 and this as 2. Okay. So substitute. Okay. So substitute 1 into 2. Okay. So basically you replace, these terms here. As I said that tu comma tv comma w is this term, tu comma v comma tw is this particular term. So you replace these two terms by this particular expression here. And then use the substitute 2 into 1 and use the fact that u, v, w are arbitrary, right? So choose them to be linearly independent as usual. So choose them to be linearly independent, then you will get, so from that you will get that desired result here. So from that you will get that cofactor of T transpose is equal to I2 times I minus I1 of T plus T square. So that is how you will get this particular result here. So this cofactor T transpose is actually coming from this one here. So again, as I said, that you can use the arbitrariness of the UVW, choose them to be linearly independent and so on and so forth. So then you will get this particular result. So this maybe you may need to write as I times U here and things like that. So that is the I will come from that I2 times I. So that is this particular term here and so on. Okay, so I think we will get that result here. Okay, so this particular result is going to be very key in getting an explicit expression for the inverse of a second order tensor here. Yes. Then, so let me call this as star here. So from star, what we get is that, so from star, we'll get that cofactor of T transpose T is equal to T times cofactor T transpose, right? Because T times T square is T square times T, right? So from that you will get this particular result here. Okay. Now let us look at the components of this cofactor tensor. Okay. So cofactor T ij is equal to half of epsilon imn epsilon jpq tmp tnq. So these are the components of the cofactor tensor. So actually just how do you get this, right? So let us go back to the definition of the cofactor. From that we will get that. So okay. So go back to the definition. So cofactor of T, U cross V is equal to TU cross TV, right? So you choose now. So choose U to be EQ cross EJ. So choose U is equal to EQ cross EJ and V to be EQ. Okay, and then again use the usual components of T and so on. So you'll get that first of all you will get U cross V as equal to 2 times EJ. Okay? And then maybe you will have to take the dot product of this whole thing with EI, correct? So that you will get EI dot EJ. So that will give you the cofactor Tij component of that one here, right? So okay, so I think you will be able to derive this after all this method that I have indicated here. So if I actually write out this particular formula, right, in matrix form, then let us see what it looks like. So cofactor T, the matrix will look like T22, T33 minus T23, T32, T23, T31 minus T21, T33. So I will not write all the components so that you can easily construct using these particular formula, but I will just write one more here, T11, T22 minus T12, T21. Okay, so just to show that the entries are quadratic in T. So that's the only purpose behind actually showing it. Of course, that is also obvious from this here. But so this is how the cofactor tensor will look like here. Right. Fine. Now let us try to get a simplified expression for I2 in terms of the trace. So what we will show is that I2 is equal to trace of the cofactor of T. Okay, so this is what we want to show. Okay, fine. All right. So we'll write first. We will write the expression for I2 times UVW is equal to U comma TV comma TW plus V comma TW comma TU plus W comma TU comma TV. So I am just using the properties of the scalar triple product. That means I am using that UVW is equal to VWU, which is equal to WUV, and so on. Okay, so I am just using those properties, so I can write it in this the scalar triple products in this particular way here. Then use the definition of the transpose of the cofactor also. So you will get that this can be written. So this I have already shown you, right? That U, so you can write this as U comma TV cross TW, the first term. So that is U comma cofactor T times V cross W, and then you can write this as cofactor T transpose times U comma V comma W. Correct? This is the scale. You can write the first term as this. So similarly, you can write it for the others also. So you can write this as cofactor T transpose comma V comma W. This is U times this one plus you can write this term as cofactor T transpose V comma W comma U plus cofactor T transpose W comma U comma V, and then this is nothing but trace of cofactor T transpose times U V W. So where I have used the definition of the trace of a tensor here, and then we know that the trace of T transpose is equal to trace of T. So the trace of cofactor T transpose is equal to the trace of cofactor itself. So that is trace of cofactor of T times UVW. And then choose UVW to be linearly independent so that you can cancel that out. And then what you will get is that I2 is equal to trace of cofactor of T. So this is a nice result again, which you can get here. So we can get an alternative expression for this also. So let us look at that alternative expression. So I will go back now to the other result which we just showed. Let me just so the result that I just proved, right, that cofactor T transpose result. So if I go back to that, so suppose you write cofactor T transpose is equal to I2 times I minus I1 times T plus T square, correct? So take the trace on both sides of this particular expression here. Then what you will get, I use the properties of the trace, okay, so the linearity of the trace. So this will give you I2, correct? This will give you I2. Then this will be I2 times trace of identity. So this will give me 3 times I2. Then this will give me minus I1 square, right, plus trace of T square. Okay. So from this particular, so if you simplify this, what you will get is that I2 is equal to half of trace of T square minus trace of T square. So this is the expression that you get. So this is an alternative expression. So both these expressions are valid. So you will get that either it is a trace of cofactor of T, or it is half of trace of T square minus trace of T square here. So these are some, as I said, that these formulae are useful in various contexts. Okay, so sometimes this formula may prove useful, sometimes in some other context, in some other proof, maybe this formula. So it is essential to know all these results. Either in some proof or the other, these results will prove to be useful here. Yes. Okay. So then now let us look at some simplification for the determinant. Now we'll derive a relation between the cofactor of T and determinant of T. So that is the next step now. Yes. So okay. So if I now write I3, so let us write a determinant of T times, I will write it as IU comma V comma W, and this I can write as TU comma TV comma TW, right? And then we have used this trick many times, so you can write this as TU comma cofactor T of V cross W, and this I can now re-express it in terms of cofactor of T transpose. So this I will write as cofactor T transpose times TU comma V cross W, right? And this is a determinant of T times IU comma V comma W. So and then see, now you can write that any Z, right, an arbitrary Z, any arbitrary Z belonging to V can be expressed as V cross W, can be expressed as V cross W for some VW, for some VW, right, for some VW belonging to V. Okay, and so this step is very important here. See, it can happen that you have your space of vectors here. Let us draw it here. So it can happen that your V cross W, right, the space of vectors that is formed from the cross product of any two vectors is a subset of this space of vectors. Okay, then we cannot replace this V cross W here by an arbitrary vector, but it turns out that actually any vector Z can be expressed as V cross W. So basically it turns out that the set of all vectors that is spanned by V cross W is the same as the space of vectors itself. So this result is very important here. So basically then I can now write that determinant of T times U comma Z now. Okay, so this is V cross W. I can write it as Z, which is an arbitrary Z. So this is cofactor T transpose times T U comma Z now. So this is for all U Z belonging to V now. Okay. And so then use equality of tensors. So from that, here as I said, you can use I times U, and then this implies now that cofactor of T transpose times T is equal to determinant of T times identity tensor, right? So this is equality of tensors. So I will just abbreviate it. EOT stands for equality of tensors here. So this we have seen the equality of tensors definition. So just I'm using that particular definition here. And we have also seen that cofactor of T transpose times T is equal to T times cofactor of T transpose, right? This also we have seen. So hence what you will get, so let me just rewrite the full result now, whatever we have got from all these results now. Let me summarize. So you can now write that T times cofactor T transpose is equal to cofactor T transpose times T, which is equal to determinant of T times identity tensor. Okay, so this is what now we can write. So this is now, as I said, that this is the complete result now. Okay, so that's and this result will be critical in giving an explicit expression for the inverse of a second order tensor. So in fact, we will use this for defining the inverse. Before that, so before actually giving you the explicit formula for the inverse of a second order tensor, let us just show one more property of the cofactors. So cofactor of Rs, okay, that is equal to cofactor R times cofactor of S. Okay. So here you have to remember that the order in which you multiply them is very important. You cannot write this as cofactor S times cofactor R, because I always said that R times S is not the same as S times R, right? So tensor multiplication is not commutative in that sense. So you have to be careful that you maintain this particular order. Rs, cofactor Rs is cofactor R times cofactor S. So this, the proof for this, you can write cofactor R times cofactor S transpose times Rs is equal to cofactor S transpose times cofactor R transpose times R times S. Okay. And then cofactor R transpose R is identity. So this is equal to cofactor S transpose times identity times S. So this is, into determinant of R. So this is equal to determinant of R times this. And then this is equal to determinant of S, determinant of R times determinant of S times identity tensor, right? So basically what you can see is that this whole object, right, qualifies as the cofactor of Rs, correct? Because we have shown that this cofactor R S transpose times Rs is determinant. So I mean, of course, this you can simplify even further. This is actually determinant of Rs times identity. So we have shown that cofactor Rs transpose times Rs is equal to determinant Rs times identity. So this qualifies as the cofactor of Rs, and we use the uniqueness also. So just, I mean, this is one object that qualifies as the cofactor of Rs, and the fact that it is unique, that the cofactor is a unique object. Hence, we can say that this is the only cofactor, right? So this is the expression for the cofactor. So this will imply that cofactor Rs is equal to cofactor R times cofactor of S, right? So by uniqueness of the cofactor, Okay, so that completes this particular property also. Now we are in a position to, okay, so this relation I need, cofactor T transpose is equal to cofactor T transpose. Yeah, so I'll need this particular relation, but other things I can erase. So now we are in a position to define the inverse now of a second order tensor here. Right. So yes. So now the inverse of T. So denoted by T. Okay, denoted by T inverse and defined by T inverse T is equal to identity. So this choice of pre-multiplying it by T inverse is an arbitrary choice at this particular stage, in the sense that I do not know that if T inverse T is identity, then what about T inverse, right? So this is a question mark. I mean, I don't know whether that will turn out to be identity. So one has to be very careful while defining. So fortunately, it will turn out that T inverse T is also equal to T inverse, okay? But that we'll have to prove so at a later stage, but at this particular stage, we will simply define it as T inverse T times identity here, okay? But first, let us give a characterization of an invertible tensor here. So theorem. Tensor T is invertible if and only if determinant of T is not equal to 0. Okay? And the determinant, the inverse, if it exists, is unique. The inverse, if it exists means the determinant has to be non-zero. In that case, it will exist. Okay, so if it exists, is unique. So you will see from the proof that the proof is also very subtle. Okay, so one has to be very careful in proving this uniqueness part here. Okay, so let us see this. So first, let us see the invertibility part. So proof of this proof. So if T inverse exists, so assuming T inverse exists, then we'll get that. So we have this defining characteristic. So from this, we'll get that determinant of T times determinant of T inverse is equal to 1, correct? Because determinant of identity is 1. So that's why you'll get this. So now, so from this particular relation, so let us call it as double star or whatever. And so if from double star, what we see is that the determinant T cannot be 0, correct? Because if determinant T is 0, then you cannot get 0, you will get 0 equal to 1, which is a contradiction, right? So hence from double star here, so from double star, we get that determinant of T is not equal to 0. Okay, then fine. All right. Then conversely, conversely from if now determinant of T is not equal to 0, okay, then go back to this particular relation. So let me call this as star. So then from star, you will see that T inverse is equal to cofactor T transpose divided by determinant of T, right? So that's just, so now because determinant T is not equal to 0, I am allowed a division by determinant of T. So divide this particular relation by determinant of T, and then T inverse T is identity. So hence you will get this particular relation here. Okay. So now, as I said, the proof of uniqueness is quite subtle here. Okay. So let us try to prove the uniqueness of the inverse. So now you may say that directly you can see from this particular relation that T inverse T is T times T inverse. No, but see, the point here is that you are constructing T inverse using this cofactor T. But it is possible that there may be some other way of constructing T inverse, okay, not through cofactor of T, but through some totally different way, and then you may not have uniqueness, okay. And so, as I said, that you have to be very careful about showing the uniqueness here, right. So let us see now how to show this uniqueness here. Fine. Okay, so so let, so this is uniqueness now, uniqueness. So let T1 inverse and T2 inverse be two inverses, okay, be two inverses, be two inverses that satisfy T1 inverse times T, which is equal to T2 inverse times T, is equal to identity. So if I subtract these two relations, then what I will get is T1 inverse minus T2 inverse times T is equal to 0. Okay. Now you choose T2 inverse to be this particular expression here. So this is, let us call it as 3 star. So, sorry, 3 star. So choose now, so choose T2 inverse to be given by 3 star. So use this expression for this one, right? Then in that case I know, so because of this, because from star I know, so from star I know that T2 inverse times T is equal to T times T2 inverse. So that I know because I have this particular relation, cofactor T transpose times T is T times cofactor T transpose. So I will get T inverse T is equal to T times T inverse for T2. Okay. So then now from this particular relation what I will get is that I have T1 inverse times T is equal to T2 inverse times T, correct? So I will post multiply it on both sides by T2 inverse. Okay. So if I so here this is also equal to T times T2 inverse, right? So because as I said that for T2 I have that particular property. So if I now post multiply, so if you multiply this on both sides by T2, then what we will get? So let us see. So this is so multiply by, okay, so let me just see, multiply by, let me just see one second. So this is T1 inverse T, let me see just, okay. So if you multiply both sides by T2 inverse, let me just rewrite this. Okay, so then you will get, so this one because T2 inverse, this is identity, so you will get that T1 inverse is equal to T2 inverse. So from this you will get this particular thing because you have this commutative property between this. Okay, so that is how you can show the uniqueness of this one. So as I said that, see here we could not assume that T1 inverse T is equal to T inverse, okay, but for T2 because of this choice I could write it as cofactor T transpose divided by determinant T. Then I got that T times T2 inverse is equal to T times T2 inverse, right? So and then if you multiply by T2 inverse, then you will get this particular result here. Okay. So I think we will stop here. So we will continue